The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Invisalign, trusted by over 500 NFL players for their winning smiles, and broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star. Now your host, Nicole Hutchison.
Cowboys Nation, welcome into Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Invisalign here in the SWBC studio. We've got Brianna Aldridge. Aisha Morrison will be calling us in shortly from the Senior Bowl. We got Jess Navarez, myself, Nicole Hutchison, and ladies, we got some great news. We now have a DC. We're going to get to the talks about Brian Schottenheimer officially being named the head coach yesterday, because there's a lot to unpack in that press conference.
That was a lot.
Over an hour.
Hour and 12 minutes.
I felt like we should have had some snacks.
Some refreshment.
Absolutely. A little something, a little razzle-dazzle to add to that.
Charcuterie board, something.
That's insane. Charcuterie board is insane. All right, but Matt Eberflus officially being named the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. He's reuniting with the Cowboys. He spent 7 seasons here as the linebackers coach and also the passing game coordinator. Went on to the Colts, and then you got to think about the Chicago Bears. He was the head coach there. Finished with a 14-32 record. But his defense is what obviously has stood out. His time with the Colts, he had a top 10 defense in scoring, run defense, and takeaways. Ooh, that sounds familiar, right? 2023?
It does.
No, sounds a little familiar.
Sounds nice.
But no, do y'all like the hire? What's y'all's thoughts?
I don't hate it.
Okay.
I mean, I think, again, I think the Cowboys put themselves in a situation where it was kind of, I don't want to say scraps, but it's what was out there was thinning out. And I think it's interesting. I know they're looking, who they're honing in on as special teams as well, is a defensive mind. So I'm like, okay, I like it, but I don't love it only because of the fact what was the biggest issue last season. Change. Jerry Jones, I know we'll get into the presser. He said we needed change. I think the first thing is offensive. There needs to be a spark, but we bring all these defensive minds. So again, don't hate it. Obviously there's familiarity there. That makes a lot of sense. Experience. I might be overselling it, but the first person I thought of defensive guy who went on to Denver, which was Nick Fangio, didn't work out, was kind of a flop, and then now he's thriving, right? So I would love to see something like that happen here. And I do remember Thanksgiving game, running that on CBS 11, and then he was fired the next day. So, but again, I think when we're talking having a defensive mind like that, don't hate it, don't love it, but when you look what's out there, I think that's why I feel how I feel.
Yeah, and I think in this business, some people are better as coordinators than head coaches, and that's okay. You know, you went there, you tried it. Maybe it wasn't for you. The game management was obviously really big in question. What I like about this hire from Eberflus is when you go back to his time at the Cowboys, he was very detrimental in development for very big names. DeMarcus Ware, Sean Lee, the big linebackers at the time. Even Jalen Smith, guys, I know, I'm not comparing all those three. I'm just saying, coming back from injury, he was very helpful for Jalen Smith at that point as well, which tells me he can work with different levels of players and help, I think, really emphasize their strengths and then grow them from there. To me, this is obviously detrimental for a struggling linebacker room because at this point, you don't know who's coming back. So if you don't have an Eric Kendricks returning to the mix, I think this is a really good hire for that younger room that you're going to have to start to rebuild. In terms of, I think, cornerbacks, he could be a really good asset. He's very big on takeaways and very good with young, specific ball hawks. So I'm talking to Kalen Carson, who obviously didn't have his best rookie season coming off of injury, but I think this will help emphasize even that room, make it better. Deron Bland, Trayvon Diggs, I think everybody can really learn from Eberflus and develop under him. Also, he can rebuild that run defense, which I think we all know needed as much help as it can get. So as long as, look, y'all know how big I am on stability. As long as there's some stability in this entire situation going forward, and you're not having your going into fourth year players with a different defensive scheme for the fourth year in a row, and you have a sense of just longevity with this guy, I'm all for it. And at this point, to your point, Bree, who else were you gonna get? Like,
that's why I said
you need someone with experience. Yeah. You need somebody who understands what it is to be in this organization. That's always a perk. He knows what it is to be a coach within the Cowboys organization. So I don't hate it. I really enjoyed it. I think it'll be really good, especially for player development.
When you look, I was looking at some of like his defensive schemes, and a lot of his defenses, or specifically with the Bears, they didn't do a lot of blitzing.
Yeah,
and that's where I was kind of like, okay, question mark there, just because the Cowboys last year, you saw that momentum building, them starting to blitz a little bit more, and they had the personnel to do it, to get home with 4 later in the season. Sorry.
We know.
Yeah, but no, just looking at his defensive scheme and having 7 guys in coverage, how do you feel like that'll benefit the Cowboys?
It's going to take a lot of flexibility across the board, and not even just from personnel, but from players as well. But I also think one of the biggest things you're going to see is a Micah Parsons finally getting the opportunity to blitz wherever really he wants, because you can do that now. So opportunity really is endless at this point. And, you know, going back to the whole linebacker core, Maris even is another name that I forgot to throw out there. And how could I? How dare I? I know. But honestly, I think it's just going to take a lot of what Eberflus is good at, which is taking strengths of your players and working it in, even if that's not his typical style of defense, because he also plays a lot of zone, not really man coverage as well, which these guys obviously didn't do great with last year. So I think it's just going to take a lot of meetings, flexibility, and player input. An open door policy, I think, is the best way to go about it, based on what you have with the mix of Mike Zimmer guys, but also Dan Quinn guys still in this locker room, and then who is yet to come from draft or free agency.
Like that.
Yeah, I hate that there's so much change again. For especially when we're talking about the defensive side of the ball, I was praying and hoping Mike Zimmer would want or lean against retirement, right? Because we saw them struggle early in the season. Injuries happened, yes, but he figured it out. And I think that's why I was like, please figure it out. Please figure it out. And so now it's like, even Micah talked about it, you know, it took a minute to do what Zim wanted us to do, because it was different than, you know, obviously with Dan Quinn. And now you got Matt Eberflus, and like you spoke, it's going to look different once again. And one thing, like, I know with the presser, the thing that stood out to me when the players were there supporting him, I thought that was so cool. But I was like, how cool would it have been? And I know this is not the Cowboy style, but in my head I was like, how cool it would have been to see another key player besides Dak, and let key player be Micah Parsons, and I don't know, the deal be done. So now we have something to believe in. Like, Micah Parsons is taking care, he's behind. We have this defensive mind that's coming in, you know, to town or what have you. And I it would have been like, I just wish. It's hard to buy in, I guess you could say. Saying all the right things, bringing that experience, but it's like, it feels like it's going to be, you said it, rebuild. And, okay, who do we have to rebuild with? It's hard to even say who I think should be the OC, the DC, the special teams, and what have you, when we don't even know what this roster is starting to look like.
Well, and I think they're doing it inside out, to where now you can decide what that looks like. Because I mean, some of these defensive guys, Eric Kendricks, might not fit into this kind of Matt Eberflus scheme, which you're like, no, because it's not a very experienced linebacker room. But hey, we can, as Aisha says, fast and pray for some free agency action.
Nick even yesterday sat here and said that he feels like this year they're going to do a lot more in free agency than they did in the past 5 years.
Well, Nick, I'm going to hold you to that, babes, because we need it.
I was like, really? He was like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, I believe it, man.
Good.
I'm weak. All right, ladies, real fast, because we do have to get to Aisha Morrison the next, let's say 5 minutes. She'll call in and give us some insights on the Senior Bowl. Do you guys feel like, I know you kind of touched on it a little bit about not really buying in just yet. And we're going to dive, obviously, deeper into this Brian Schottenheimer press conference later in the show. But did that at least give you any confidence to somewhat get closer to buying in after an hour and 12 minutes of a lot of positivity? You got a lot of emotion out of Jerry Jones. Stephen Jones was excited. We got the players there supporting. It's got to be a little bit of some sort of buying in. I really don't have a choice now.
I will say, I think about it, like, respectively. Like, you don't have to be, you know, they're not going to go up there and say, made a mistake, you know. I did think it was interesting and maybe they didn't have it, you know, rehearsed, but the first question was, why him? I was like, well, that's a pretty generic question, but what made you go with him? And it was dead quiet. Do you guys remember that? It was like awkward silence. I said, hey, like, it's you.
Yeah.
But then it kind of went on a little bit of tangent about how Jerry he only missed one Senior Bowl in 35 years. And I'm just like, that's nothing to do with, you know, that. So that let me know time was as the essence. Even though there's no clock, that let me know right away that time was a big reason why, regardless. Yeah. But I will say, and I had the opportunity to be in the talks with Schottenheimer's wife and his mother, and like I said all day yesterday, there's a lot to prove of Brian Schottenheimer as a head coach, but it's hard not to like this guy, and it's hard not to root for him. And anyone who's sitting here hoping that he fails, and I think Pat had mentioned that yesterday, it's weird vibes, right? Because this is your fan base. It's a risky decision, and if it works out, Jerry Jones is a hero, and he probably did it at a pretty on sale price at that. But no, just getting to hear him, the emotions, you can't fake that. Him's reaction to some of the players that were there, you can't fake that, right? So I think that, if anything, and him, you know, can you bring this franchise championship? Well, why would I take this job if I couldn't, you know, or if I didn't believe I couldn't? So it's like, well, we're here now, and you have kind of no choice to buy in, but I know he's saying all the right things, but like I said, I think some of that is hard to fake, and I liked what the person, Brian Schottenheimer.
Can I lease in and not buy in? Because that's where I'm at. I'm leasing in.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, no, I'm leasing in. And that's good. Because, thanks, girl. Thanks. But Brian Schottenheimer, I knew once the fan base heard him talk, if they went into listening to that press conference with neutral minds of just hearing him talk, they would like him. Of course, I know that's not how it usually goes, but I knew, we all knew that. We've heard Brian Schottenheimer all year in press conferences, and you know he's a very likable guy with a really cool story that comes from a football family. And what I really liked him talking about was how he manifested this, really. How he had that little note where he said, I want to be the youngest head coach in the NFL. Like, what a dream come true for Brian Schottenheimer. And, you know, as a human, the human element of it, when you have a big goal or a big dream that people tell you it's not obtainable. I come from Las Cruces, New Mexico, and when I told people I want to cover the Dallas Cowboys, they'd literally laugh in my face. Like, so that's not in the scope of being the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, but like, to finally get to that point where he's sitting in that seat and getting to thank his family who's sitting right there, talk about his dad, give homage to his dad. Heck yeah, that was hitting my heartstrings. People were sniffling. I was like, stop, because I'll cry if I see people cry. Like, I can't do that. But I knew people would like Shotty as a human and as a person. Great. What spoke volumes to me was when your quarterback comes in with a herd of players. And I don't know why they were here. I don't know if they came specifically for the presser. I'm not sure. Regardless, they took time out of their day to come show face and be supportive of who is now their head coach. If they didn't want to, they wouldn't. If they want to, they will. Like, that's one thing about men. We all know that. But that spoke layers to me, that they were more than supportive of this decision. So for me, I'm leasing in because I need to actually see him as a head coach. We don't know.
Yes.
And like I said earlier, sometimes people are better as coordinators than head coaches. We don't know yet. But I will say, everything sounds great on paper. But what's it going to look like?
Yeah.
TBD. We can't buy in until we actually start to see what goes on at training camp, how he kind of differentiates from the former Mike McCarthy era. And I really liked the emphasis on continuity, but still change. because, yeah, both things were needed. And I think that's what the Joneses got out of this hire. So, honestly, if he's successful, Jerry Jones is going to be laughing all the way to the bank for years, just like he did with Tony Romo and Dak Prescott. And these guys that shouldn't be in these positions that end up being successful in them, Brian Schottenheimer could be the head coach version of that.
Yeah. I'm going to go with, I like that leasing idea. That
I'm
was
gonna
the lease. I'm going to go a rent.
Oh, you're renting
No. I like the lease.
You're leasing
the lease
into?
I'm going to lease into because I learned my lesson last year buying in completely.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Can't do that. I think it was when they beat Philly and then they lost 2 and then we beat the Lions and then I was like, okay. Then they lost.
Girl, you gotta be smart with your money.
Yeah, it's fine.
Gotta invest.
But however, I'm gonna say I'm excited and looking forward to what Shotty is going to do with this team. And he had told Nick Eatman in an exclusive. Shout out to Nick for doing a great job with that interview because it was great. And Nick had asked him, you know, which is a bigger challenge, meeting the expectations of your father, Marty Schottenheimer, or getting the franchise back to a Super Bowl. And he had said, I'm going to go to this quote because it was good. I think it's honestly neither. I'm a process guy. The biggest thing for us and for me is to put together the best coaching staff that we can because that's the first challenge. We have to bring in the right teachers, motivators, guys who can develop the right techniques, guys who will have the right connections with their players because if you don't have the right connection or relationship with your players, it's a lot to criticize. He also added that he's not competing with his father. I'm competing with myself and for the standards and expectations that I've always had, which is to win a Super Bowl. So that right there stuck with me because, granted, and it pissed me off yesterday. Yep, I'm going on a rant because a lot of people were taking what he said about his father and paying homage to his father and running with it in a way that it was kind of like, oh, he hasn't, left the shoes of his father. No, you guys are clearly not comprehending, right? Like, he's honoring his late father, who he's always dreamed to be a coach, Brian. And it's just like, I love that because it's not, you're trying to take what your father did in the NFL, the success, and take it to a whole different level. And that's something that, DeMarvian had told me earlier today. Shout out, the interview's coming soon. And he had said that, as a player, when you see hunger like that in a coach, it takes your hunger to a whole different level. So I'm looking forward to how he kind of brings heightens the approach that these guys in the locker room take as well.
And something, sorry, when you said that, I was saying, you can't fake it. His mom, something that stood out to me, said when Shotty was a kid, that him and his siblings used to watch film, and he was like 7 or 8, and watch film with his dad on a projector.
Oh, that's old school.
Oh, a little bit.
Girl.
And I was just like, you can't, this is what he's always wanted to do. We've all changed. Okay, I wanted to work at McDonald's so I could wear the headset when we were younger.
Look, you're wearing a headset now.
It changed up. But you know what I mean? Like, this is something he's always wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I think it's hard. He's like the underdog in the story. It's hard not to root for the underdog, especially when you think about, 25 plus years in the NFL. And now you get your shot. And like you said, everyone has a first. Everyone needs a shot in the door. We're all been in a spot where somebody had to take a chance on us.
Yeah.
And I think the hard part is, yes, but why did it have to be right now when you're coming off 7 and 10 and you need change? I think that's the hard part. But like you said, if this works out, he's a hero in this one.
I also think, too, listening to that quote, I go back to Dak Prescott's story and how much, losing a parent could potentially, have bonded their relationship in their whys. Because you know how big these guys are in the locker room on their whys. Dak Prescott was hella supportive in that press conference. He was sitting behind me, and I just kept hearing somebody talk. I was like, who keeps talking? And I turn around, and it's Dak, and I was like, oh, sorry, you're good. But I didn't know who it was, because Shotty would say something. When he went on, I tweeted this, how Shotty's like, I'm good at X's and O's, but I'm really great with people, going on about how he connects with people. Dak was like, yes, sir. And I was like, who is saying that? Because I just didn't realize he was sitting right there. And I was like, I know a media member is not sitting there saying that. And it was Dak. But you can tell, even Tyler Smith was kind of this way. And I kept turning back to look at their reactions to things. And when Shotty would talk about a Super Bowl, y'all know Tyler Smith. And his little serious face, he's like, hungry for it, though. Because, these guys are so locked into what Shotty says, to me, that's the first step of it's okay to lease in because these guys are already ready to take commands from him.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a lot of fun. He did say that now it starts with, getting to know your players do well. Hopefully, Matt Eberflus does the same thing. Again, we do not know him. I've never covered him, so I do not know, but I'm pretty sure with the numbers, he does. So looking forward to them actually, the Cowboys completing their staff. We're going to take our first break because we have Aisha Morrison on the line, going to give us a quick update on some players that she's been watching at Senior Bowl. They're actually on TV right now. So we're going to take our first break, and we'll be back with more.
How do you tell the world about all the great gifts in the Yeti store? Let her rip, Troy.
All right, folks, let's get started with the Yeti French Press. Enjoy coffee that stays hot for hours in a French press. 34 ounce for you, 6'4" for the cruise. The Yeti French Press. Up next, waterproof bags. Bags waterproof. Submersible waterproof doubles. Waterproof backpacks. World's mostly water, so get a waterproof Yeti bag. Do I smell something cooking? Oh, new cast iron skillets made to be passed down like Mama's recipes. Take a steak, cornbread, cobbler's pot pie, and potatoes and next level with 3 sizes of Yeti cast iron skillets.
Gear, gifts, and product experts. Visit the Yeti store on McKinney Street and at South Lake Town Square today.
Discover Aiden, the official luggage partner of the Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. Known for top-tier engineering and craftsmanship, Aiden offers more than just bags. Originating from Australia and designed in New York, it merges fashion, design, and culture. Used by Dallas Cowboys players, staff, and the entire organization, Aiden provides style and functionality for all travelers. Visit AidenTheBrand.com and use code AidenXCowboys for 25% off your purchase. Travel like your favorite stars with Aiden.
When you're on the field, you know what it takes to lead your team and play with confidence. But that confidence shouldn't just stop at game time. It should follow you off the field, too. Join over 500 NFL players who trust Invisalign, the #1 doctor-recommended clear aligner brand. Do it for confidence on and off the field. Do it for you. Ready to take the first step towards a smile you'll love? Don't wait. Visit Invisalign.com/NFL and find a doctor near you today. Transform your smile and take your confidence to the next level, both on the field and off.
Cowboys fans, when it comes to navigating the ever-changing world of tax, your business needs a partner it can trust to tackle even your biggest tax challenges. Ryan is the largest firm in the world dedicated exclusively to business taxes. Our team of tax professionals has local expertise in all areas of tax and can help you uncover savings opportunities you didn't know you had. Learn more about how Ryan can improve your overall corporate tax performance by visiting Ryan.com. Ryan, the official tax partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Amanda Foster has been named your 2024 Dallas Cowboys Fan of the Year, presented by Captain Morgan, for her dedication to the team and spicing up the game. Vote for Amanda to be named the ultimate NFL Fan of the Year at NFL.com/Fan of the Year right now. Go vote for our girl, Amanda.
Go vote for our girl, Amanda. Welcome back into Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Invisalign. We've got our Aisha Morrison. Wow. R is crazy. Aisha Morrison on the line, live at the Senior Bowl right now. And how are you doing? First off, safe travels. I'm sure you made it there safely.
And
good,
Congo.
Aisha? And Congo.
Yes. Let me tell y'all something. Don't
Goodness.
Get in a rental car in New Orleans at New Orleans Airport is something to behold. It is really an experience. So just don't be like me. Plan better. Make sure your schedule's okay, because you're going to be waiting a little bit. Oh, that's loud. Sorry, guys.
Oh, no, you're fine. I'm sure it's quite the experience, like seeing a lot of those talented guys out there. And I want to start with the defensive side of the ball for me, the defensive line. And I'm kind of biased to this one because I covered Deion Walker at Kentucky, and he would be a massive pickup for the Cowboys because he's literally massive. Literally massive.
Interesting.
Yeah, 345 pounds, 6'6". He's also been known to be like a really good leader as well. Mark Stoops, when I was there, he was very vocal about that. Have you seen him at all in person?
Yes. I'm not on the field today. I'm probably going to go down there tomorrow. I just wanted to get a little bit of just kind of test the waters a little bit today. But as far as Deion Walker, you talked about like his leadership and things like that and his size. And the thing about a lot of guys that are that size, sometimes people just expect for them to be space eaters, right? They're just guys that take on double teams. No, Deion Walker is a guy that displays agility, his foot quickness. He has heavy hands. for him to be that size and have some pass rush ability, I think gives him more upside. So that's a really good call, Nicole. I've been out here, today's the first day of practice, so kind of got to temper your expectations in a sense, ladies. These guys are just trying to get a feel. They're taking in a lot of information. They're taking in a lot of coaching. But watching one-on-one today, I was impressed with. Sorry, my bad, y'all. Sorry, my phone is tripping.
No, you're good.
But watching one-on-ones today, I was impressed by DeCameron Jackson out of Florida. Dallas is probably going to be in the DT market because obviously we talked about it all season, the lack of depth there, but also, too, with the possibility of losing someone like Oso Digizua. I mean, we're going to pray and fast about that. But,
Lord.
yes, this gentleman, the way that he pops off of the line of scrimmage, they have him listed as a DT because he can play on the inside. But, y'all, I saw him dominate on the edge today, and there was really no one that could guard him on one-on-ones. That's really what I'm trying to look at the most here because Dallas has such a need for DT, as you said, Nicole.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Yeah. So going into this, who are you really keeping an eye on as far as Cowboys needs, other than DT? Who are some guys that Cowboys Nation should keep on their radar during the Senior Bowl?
Yeah. So there is a gentleman named Jalen Noel out of Iowa State. He's a wide receiver. Really love how he adjusts to the ball, how he tracks the ball. I think that Dallas should be in the market for a wide receiver. I do think that Jalen Tolbert, as inconsistent as people might have felt like about his season, I think he's earned his spot as far as being maybe the third receiver, but you are still in desperate need of a number 2 receiver. We're not sure what's going to happen with Brandon Cooks. So Jalen Noel out of Iowa State, very fluid in the open field. We got to see him. They set him up in the screen game, and you got to see some of his ability with yards after catch and being able to move in the open field. Also, too, crazy enough, y'all don't get mad at me when I say this, but Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback out of Oregon, he's been the best quarterback that I've seen out here today. His wide receivers didn't really do him a whole bunch of favors, but we have no idea what's going to happen with the backup quarterback position in Dallas right now. Like, obviously, Cooper Rush did his job this season as much as he could. We don't know what's going to happen with Trey Lance, if he's going to return. If Dallas is looking to bring another quarterback in, I think Dylan Gabriel is a fantastic guy to have, to develop, and to have on your roster as a backup this year. So those are just a couple of the guys that I think really stood out to me today. And Tez Johnson out of Oregon. He gives me Tank Dell vibes. Like, he's so elusive. He's so smooth. There's not a lot of wasted movement. I mean, Dallas could get one of those receivers in the first round, and I would be giddy as can be. Giddy as can be.
I'm crying.
I got a question for you just because yesterday I got excited when Schottenheimer was asked what was going to be different about his offense, and he used this crazy term called running back.
Whoa.
So I got I got
Oh.
excited, and obviously there's been a lot of hype around Ashton Genty. However, I'm hearing the running back class for this class specifically is pretty deep. And you could get something in the second and third round pick. I know Ollie Gordon. His size. I just want a big running back. I think that's just what it is. And no, like Rico, obviously he's a smaller running back, and it would just be so nice to get something in the draft because the Cowboys might not make that move in free agency.
No, you're right. So the way that I look at the Cowboys, and we know the Cowboys have a habit of, they like homegrown talent. They like to bring in guys like they literally have Dallas Day. Brashard Smith, running back out of SMU, is a gentleman that I believe that the Cowboys could definitely take a look at, mostly because not only is he a good running back, he also has receiving qualities. Girls, when I tell y'all, there's times that you will see him running routes and you think he's a receiver. He just little. He's just not that tall. And it's just so crazy how comfortable he is doing receiver-esque things, but also still being the running back that you need him to be. I also think he's active in pass pro. He's not perfect at it, but he's active in pass pro. I could see Dallas taking a look at someone like Brashard Smith, maybe in like the third round. He was very, very, very productive at SMU. And like I said before, Dallas likes homegrown talent. So keep an eye out on him, sisters. Keep an eye out on him.
Yeah. I want to ask you about cornerback position because we don't know what the Cowboys are going to do about Jordan Lewis. Kalen Carson obviously having a season-ending injury last year. We don't really know how he'll take that jump in year 2. And Trayvon Diggs injured as well. So we need some depth there. Aisha, who you got your eye on out there?
Her double eye?
It's been kind of hard today. I would say, let me look at my list. Let me look at my few guys that I was
She didn't even hear
catching
my
today.
joke. Girl,
One
you didn't even
second.
hear my joke over here. I said you're keeping a double eye on the
Please,
cornerbacks.
please,
It's
sister.
okay, we
please.
got it.
She needs help.
So, literally.
I'm trying to see who did I write down that I liked today. I will say that a lot of the corners today have been real chippy. Let me tell you something. They've been a little handsy.
We like
Oh,
that.
okay. There's a gentleman, from Ole Miss. His name is Trey Amos. This is a guy that makes plays on the ball, but he's extremely sticky in coverage. He mirrors receivers well. Got to see him do it in one-on-ones. He's actually practicing now. And some of the things that you see from him are just he's not afraid to press. He's not afraid to hand fight. When you start looking into, like, I did some research on some of the schemes that they've used. He is capable of running zone, but he thrives in man. I think that he would be a good guy to add to the team as well, or just to keep an eye out on as, the draft process goes. So Trey Amos out of Ole Miss is a gentleman that I believe that Dallas could definitely take a look at for the cornerback position. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, Nicole, because corner is a need that's a need that's a need that's a need at this point. It's serious.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, girl.
yeah.
Me again.
Me again.
So obviously with the hire of Matt Eberflus, that kind of changes up the type of guys potentially drafted to fit his scheme. What do you think those type of guys really are? What should their strengths be? And who do you think that you've seen so far today could fit that bill for a Matt Eberflus defense?
Okay, so when you talk about Matt Eberflus, he is different from Mike Zimmer in a sense that Mike Zimmer is a person that disguises on the back end. He does some different things on the back end. The Eberflus that I know, that I remember, is a lot more, we're going to beat you the way we're going to beat you. So it really is contingent on your front seven being guys that can get home and can wreak havoc. He's not going to do a lot of fancy smancy stuff on the back end. And again, we haven't seen him coach. I haven't seen him coach in a year, maybe more. So I will say, like, he's allowed to change how he schemes. But if that's going to be the case, Dallas needs to continue to go. Dallas needs to go edge. Dallas needs to go defensive line. Like, I don't think that Dallas can sit around and look at some of these other teams, especially in their division, attack free agency and build through the draft. And it's like, no, you need to be able to stop the run in an Eberflus system, but he likes guys that can get upfield and pass rush. So for me, one of the gentlemen that I was looking at earlier is Josh Farmer out of Florida State. He's very, very active, very, very active, very high motor. Always, like, the penetration off the line of scrimmage is almost consistent. He is just a disruptor, and I think he would be a guy that would fit. Like, the Cowboys' front seven is going to have to be able to create pressure or confusion because Eberflus is not going to do a whole bunch of interchanging with his safeties and some of the stuff we've seen with Zimmer. He's going to be a little bit less, fancy-smancy with stuff and play guys straight up. So this defensive line needs to get better at consistently getting pressure, and you might be losing some guys. So I would attack there. I know that was lengthy, but
No,
I
that
thought
was
I would
perfect.
attack there.
That was good right there.
Okay.
I think she hit it off. Man, but I think the craziest thing, and Aisha, when you look at this draft coming up, like we're talking about the cornerback position. Last season, that was the one position I thought we didn't have to address.
Talk about it.
And now it's a top priority. But there's really, in my opinion, I'm looking at the O-line, D tackle, wide receiver would be nice. But when you look at Aisha and the situation, and like I said, there's so many unknowns because we don't even know what this roster is shaping up to be with free agents and things like that. But do you feel like there is a position where you'd be like, I'd leave that alone? You know what I'm saying? Because there's so many needs right now.
I would say maybe interior offensive line. I would say I think that you've seen. I think Brock Hoffman is a starter in this league. I think that TJ Bass is a good backup. I think that Cooper Beebe got better almost every game through the year. I think that Tyler Smith is Tyler Smith, and he's going to dominate. I think your interior offensive line, you should find a little comfort in, if I'm being honest, because the fact that you know that you can roll out a TJ Bass or one of those guys as a backup is a luxury. It's a blessing. So for me, I don't know if I would be trying to prioritize taking offensive line early. You already put into that investment multiple times. You literally took a tackle 2 years in a row in the first round. Try to find some guys in the mid-rounds if you need to, but I don't think it's as much of a need unless you are going to try to attack tackle, which this tackle class is not nearly as strong as it was last year.
All right, well, Aisha, thank you so much. Keep doing great work out there, and we will see you back here next Tuesday. Have fun out there in the NOLA. That's what they call New Orleans. In NOLA, girl. All right, we're going to take our second break here on Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Invisalign. We'll be right back.
Girl.
Discover Aiden, the official luggage partner of the Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. Known for top-tier engineering and craftsmanship, Aiden offers more than just bags. Originating from Australia and designed in New York, it merges fashion, design, and culture. Used by Dallas Cowboys players, staff, and the entire organization, Aiden provides style and functionality for all travelers. Visit AidenTheBrand.com and use code AidenXCowboys for 25% off your purchase. Travel like your favorite stars with Aiden.
When you're on the field, you know what it takes to lead your team and play with confidence. But that confidence shouldn't just stop at game time. It should follow you off the field, too. Join over 500 NFL players who trust Invisalign, the #1 doctor-recommended clear aligner brand. Do it for confidence on and off the field. Do it for you. Ready to take the first step towards a smile you'll love? Don't wait. Visit Invisalign.com/NFL and find a doctor near you today. Transform your smile and take your confidence to the next level, both on the field and off.
How do you tell the world about all the great gifts in the Yeti store? Let her rip, Troy.
All right, folks, let's get started with the Yeti French Press. Enjoy coffee that stays hot for hours in a French press. 34 ounce for you, 6'4" for the crews. The Yeti French Press. Hot mix waterproof bags. Bags waterproof. Submersible waterproof doubles. Waterproof bags. World's mostly water, so get a waterproof Yeti bag. Do I smell something cooking? Oh, new cast iron skillets made to be passed down like Mama's recipes. Take a steak, cornbread, cobbler's pot pie, and potatoes next level with 3 sizes of Yeti cast iron skillets.
Gear, gifts, and product experts. Visit the Yeti store on McKinney Street and at South Lake Town Square today.
Cowboys fans, when it comes to navigating the ever-changing world of tax, your business needs a partner it can trust to tackle even your biggest tax challenges. Ryan is the largest firm in the world dedicated exclusively to business taxes. Our team of tax professionals has local expertise in all areas of tax and can help you uncover savings opportunities you didn't know you had. Learn more about how Ryan can improve your overall corporate tax performance by visiting Ryan.com. Ryan, the official tax partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Refresh your Cowboys wardrobe with the best gear in the game. Visit a pro shop near you or log on to shop.dallascowboys.com, a Fanatics experience, and set the tone for the new year.
Go ahead, and fans, I know y'all gonna still go ahead and buy some gear. Go ahead. Don't act different. Y'all gonna still go buy some Cowboys gear. We love to see it, though. Love the support. All right, yesterday, we're going to break down still the press conference because I said there was a lot to unpack. Jerry Jones speaking very highly of Brian Schottenheimer. He even mentioned that he hasn't gone to next door neighbor personally. Didn't do that for Jimmy Johnson. Didn't even do that for Barry as well. So he apparently visited Brian Schottenheimer's next door neighbor. Says a lot about Jerry and his what he wanted to do with Schottenheimer and his faith that he had in him being the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Was there anything in particular that stood out to you the most that Jerry said?
I mean, there was a lot.
Ooh, I know. I had like 2 pages of notes.
Gosh.
I will say how it started.
Yeah.
I wrote it down immediately because I think there were so many questions when this Mike McCarthy was like, okay, when did you decide he wasn't the one? When did you have interest in Schottenheimer? And he said he had conversations with McCarthy. They were going back and forth for 5 days, and that's when they mutually agreed that there was need for change. And so that kind of stuck out to me because you decided after talking for fighting need for change, the 5 losses in a row by a lot of points didn't, there wasn't no need for change. So that was kind of like, I think that's hard to buy into because it's like you let us know that McCarthy was your first choice. That's basically what happened there. And then you look to Schottenheimer. But I will say, I love the way Jerry stood on business and said, yeah, I've seen what you guys have been saying about me, but it's ridiculous to think that I only talked to 4 candidates and just went with the wing on it. Like he did his homework. He was talking, even the Pete Carroll thing was gaining some traction, but sounded like Pete Carroll was a little bit of a reference call on that one, which we were kind of speculating after he went to the Raiders so quickly after that came about. But that was the biggest thing for me because I was like, the math wasn't mathing on what it was saying. But like I said, the person kind of locked me in and won me over a little bit. Like you said, Jess, from the jump, that was going to happen, and it did. But yeah, some of the things were kind of not what the timeline was telling us,
Yeah. What caught me by surprise was when Jerry just flat out said, like, we wanted Schottenheimer to call the plays. I was like,
normally they make you wait a little bit to figure that out.
Well, he said that during the press conference, and he's like, basically, my words, not his, but that he didn't want to have any hard feelings or anything at that point. And I was like, I need more on that. Like, when did that happen? And is that the case? So we all media scrummed after the press conference. And one of the first things I asked about the Jason Witten thing, but then I also asked who's calling the plays? Like, no matter who your offensive coordinator is, who's calling the plays? Because Jerry made it clear he's not talking about staff or those kind of hires. And he, right off the bat, like, one of the quickest answers he had was Brian Schottenheimer is calling the plays. And I was like, okay, that was interesting to me because, again, you're going second year where your head coach is the play caller as opposed to your offensive coordinator. So, let the dice roll where they go, but that makes me wonder how that impacts the hiring of an offensive coordinator because it's a less sexy job to not get to call the plays as an OC. So I'm wondering kind of what they have up their sleeve for that. But that got me. Like, audibly in the press conference, I was like, oh. I perked up and was like, what'd you say?
Well, he also said along the lines of like, if he wasn't calling the plays respectfully, he wasn't going to be here in Dallas. That's what I gathered.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
Okay, so that means that obviously that they liked his ideas. And it goes back to that word deference that they had used yesterday and how Shotty had basically had, behind closed doors, he's having to bite his lips even though he doesn't agree with certain things.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, they obviously have a lot of faith in what he can bring and the change that he can bring here in Dallas. When you talk about the modernizing of the offense, though, who was at this? I think that was you, Jess, that mentioned it, or maybe it was you, Bree, talking about the offense in the first segment.
I said, girl, that was 2 segments ago.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No.
Sorry. One of y'all.
Life done passed me by since then.
I'm crying. Y'all are sick.
It's been a whole 30 minutes.
That's insane. All right. One of y'all said it earlier. And I want to go back to that question of, do y'all think that I asked this yesterday of realistically, do you feel like that'll be a quick change here in Dallas? Do y'all think that they'll be able to really make that change here in Dallas next year?
It sounded, from what it sounded like, how Jerry was talking about the expectations of the play calling, but also when Schottenheimer was talking about what he does well, which is marry the pass and the run. And it sounded like what they said they were going to do last year, and they didn't. So I'm confused. Like, it sounds like a traditional West Coast offense is what Schottenheimer really wants to implement here. But are they going to do it? That's my question, because it sounds exactly like what McCarthy had said this was going to be. So I don't really think there's much of a change in the play calling, I really think at this point you grow based on what you have left after free agency and what you get from the draft. I don't think it changes much. And Dak, again, sitting right behind me, being vocal, when play calling was being discussed, Dak was like, yeah, like in the back. And I was like, again, who is being so loud? Because he was so into what Schotty was saying. So for me, I don't really think it changes much other than the fact that what's being talked about is actually done. Like, you get a traditional West Coast offense with an actual run game, with a pass game that very much window dresses, the run in the pass. So I really like that. That, to me, stood out. And even when you go back to how Schottenheimer paid ode to Pete Carroll over and over again, that was kind of similar to what was happening in Seattle, too. Russell Wilson was great at that point in implementing the run in the pass like that, but Schotty was great at a very balanced offense as well.
Yeah, you could definitely sense, at least from what Jerry was kind of saying, that wanting him to call plays, he made a reference about like last season, like after a hard game on Sunday, which I'm assuming was a loss that he's talking about, they'd be in a meeting and Schotty would have an idea and Jerry was like, man, that's a good idea, right? And he didn't have, like you said, he didn't have that ability to go in and override what McCarthy was thinking or what have you. So now he gets the chance. I think when Kellen Moore left, McCarthy, in some way, I can do better than what we did last year with Kellen Moore. Here we go. That didn't work out. Obviously, you have the same result. So now it's, okay, I was there. We have this foundation. I can do better with than McCarthy was doing because I didn't get a chance to call the plays. So I'm hoping that it's not like same as last time because, like you said, there's so much familiarity. And when you say we need change, it's kind of like, again, that buy-in, well, what's going to be different? But I will say him starting off saying, understanding that the run game has to complement the pass game, right? And we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Everybody who moved on to that divisional round, they had a run game. They outran their opponent by a lot. I don't even have the numbers in front of me.
You're just talking about Saquon alone, because yeah,
that's what I'm saying. But like and they had mobile quarterbacks, so that is Dak. That's not Dak right now. So you have to have a running game. And I know it's not the sexiest thing in the NFL and you want to have this air attack and what have you, but especially if they don't, they're probably going to we know they're not going to make a splash in free agency with wide receivers when you need so many other things. You're hoping that you get lucky in the draft and get somebody cheap who's going to make an impact in their first year. I'm thinking of a Keon Coleman right now who was available last season, right? He's had splashes, but he wasn't a huge part of that offense. So you're not going to get that in the first year of these wide receivers that are coming out.
Right.
So that's how I'm looking at it, just as someone who's going to actually put emphasis on the run game. I do feel like Mike McCarthy's hands were a little bit tied when you bring back Zeke. And does Zeke have the juice? No disrespect, but no, right? It just didn't. I don't know if it had a ton to do with play calling, if he's just whatever, what have you, but it didn't work out. So I feel like maybe McCarthy had his, couldn't do as much. So maybe they're going to let Schotty unleash a little bit. But I hope they just let him do his thing. Because if it fails, he was able to do his thing.
Yeah.
Then I'll be a little bit more, oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
But
I think it makes it fun just because you don't really know what to expect.
That's one way to look at
A
it.
lot of fun in the unexpected kind of.
Until you get to game 4 and it's going downhill. Then it's not fun.
Girl, we're not manifesting that.
Yeah, we're just going to say now, we don't know what to expect, so that's
new era.
Era of Brian Schottenheimer. New era of the Dallas Cowboys. On that note, we're going to see y'all next week. For Aisha Morrison, who is not here, who is in Senior Bowl, missing her, and Brianna Aldridge, Jess Navarez, I'm Nicole Hutchison. We'll see y'all back here next week.
Bye.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!